Part 22. The real daughter has become famous all over the world for fortune-telling. Author, Wang Chris Bone. Chapter 211. Chapter 211. Where there is demand, there is a market. Pei Anzu exchanged a few words with the lady on the roadside, then got rid of her, closed the car window, and continued moving forward. After walking out for a long time, Shen Yuan couldn't help but say, "It seems that the villagers here have great trust in the so-called master of the Zhao family. Once they heard that we were here to find them, their suspicions disappeared a lot. Yes, it seems that the three brothers Zhao Boping, Zhao Zhongan, and Zhao Shul are quite famous in this village." Pei Anzu nodded. "The small clinic helps people abort female fetuses, and the Zhao family can help people find children. There must be a connection between the two. Maybe it is a business specially developed for those who prefer boys over girls," Officer Du said. "In the Dragon Kingdom, the idea of equality between men and women has been practiced for I don't know how many years. The old ideas of raising children for old age and males carrying on the family line are also being broken step by step, and girls have also gained relatively equal rights. However, there are still some old feudal and stubborn people who treat girls like worn-out shoes and treat boys like treasures, which has caused a series of tragedies. For example, Wang Xiaoqan, the host of this live broadcast. Her husband's family and her natal family are both typical representatives of patriarchal preference for sons. It is precisely because of this that she lived a short and tragic life at an age that should have been the best. As the saying goes, if there is demand, there will be a market. There is such a group of people who are obsessed with having a son and want to have a son at all costs, then someone will take advantage of this loophole and enter this market. It is not difficult to imagine that except for Zhao Zhongan, the second eldest son of the Zhao family, the other two people are probably engaged in this business, and it just so happens that they also have certain means. The Taoist classics left by Xu Yong'an must have recorded a lot of things. At the beginning, Zhao Zhongan only said that his two brothers were not good at academics and were not as high as him, but he did not say that they did not understand anything. Perhaps the eldest and third eldest sons of the Zhao family have delved into some evil methods from those classics and used them to make profits. For a time, Officer Du and Officer Zhang felt helpless. Before Pei Anzu suddenly emerged through live broadcasts, those Taoist methods were hidden in the dark and unknown, and it was not known how many lives the Zhao brothers had killed through this. The vehicle continued forward, turning left and right, passing by rows of exquisitely built houses, and arrived at the door of the Zhao family's ancestral home. The Zhao family's ancestral house is an old-fashioned building that is hundreds of years old, like a house in a costume TV series where dozens of wealthy families live. Although it has only one floor, it has a large area with gardens, ponds, green trees, and rocks. It is also divided into main gate, second gate, and third gate. Between the gates, there are hand-curved corridors surrounding them. Everything is exquisite and gorgeous, and it is no different from the houses of officials and gentry in ancient times. The Zhao brothers are very stylish. There are guards at the gate and there are cameras at the door. When they see a vehicle stopping, someone takes the initiative to open the door. "Dear guests, please, our master is already waiting for you in the hall." Pei Anzu and the others looked at each other and unanimously chose to keep their previous persona, pretending to be a rich man who came to ask for a child. After being taken to the living room by the servants, they saw two middle-aged men sitting on the main seat. They look similar to Master Zhao, who was arrested by the Foreign Affairs Bureau. Not surprisingly, they are the boss Zhao Boping and the third son Zhao Shul. "Are you two Master Zhao? I have finally met you." Pei Anzu looked overjoyed. "Please help me." End of this chapter. The real daughter has become famous all over the world for fortune-telling. Author, Wang Chris Bone. Chapter 212. Chapter 212. Specific requirements. Zhao Boping couldn't help but be more vigilant when he saw that Pei Anzu had brought so many people, and there were several men who looked burly and serious. You just want to have a son. It's me. Pei Anzu nodded without any guilt. The arrested Master Zhao said that his two brothers were really half-experienced in metaphysics and had not learned much. Hence, Pei Anzu is not afraid of being seen through their faces. It's not that she relied on her ability to rely on her, but she had calculated before entering Zhao's house that their operation would go smoothly this time. Zhao Boping looked Pei Anzu up and down, then looked at Shen Yuan behind her, then glanced at Officer Du and Officer Zheng, and asked. It's strange. Usually people who come to my place are secretive and sneaky. They are afraid that others will know that they can't give birth, and they are afraid of becoming someone else's talking point. It's rare to see someone as upright as you, and you have brought so many people with you. In the final analysis, I am still a little skeptical and trying to find out Pei Anzu's background. Pei Anzu didn't panic at all and sighed. Master Zhao, you are well informed. Even if I don't tell you, you also know that families like ours have many overt and covert struggles that outsiders don't know about. If I didn't have a few bodyguards to protect me, I probably wouldn't have had the chance to ask you to come over. I would have been killed by those little outside on the way. The giants have always been that you die, and the rich people are fighting for family property. Zhao Boping has also heard a lot over the years. He has several clients who are rich, but they can't have children themselves. Their husbands have found mistresses outside, and their status is threatened. They come to him to seek help. So, when he heard Pei Anzu's words, he automatically regarded Pei Anzu as the unappreciated first wife of a wealthy family. In fact, Zhao Boping does not just believe what others say. Mainly warned by Pei Anzu and Shen Yuan, it can indeed be seen that they are good things. One is the rich daughter of the Shen family, and the other is the eldest young lady of the Feng family. They are the face of the family when they go out, so there is no imperfection in their body. Especially the bracelet on Pei Anzu's wrist. It was given by the old lady of the Feng family when she first met her. Because it contains spiritual energy and could be used as a power bank to replenish spiritual energy, she never took it off after putting it on. Zhao Boping is not very good at metaphysics, but he has a good eye for good things. This bracelet was worth a lot of money at first glance, which proved that Pei Anzu was indeed a wealthy man, so he believed Pei Anzu's words to a certain extent. Subsequently, he saw Officer Du and the others standing behind Pei Anzu, as if they were headed by Pei Anzu, and he had no doubts about their identity as bodyguards. In the end, Pei Anzu was pretty and young, and he didn't look threatening, so Zhao Boping didn't pay much attention to him. Let's sit down and talk in detail, Zhao Boping said to Pei Anzu, and then asked, I wonder what your wife's surname is. My surname is Pei, Pei Anzu said. Mrs. Pei, I wonder what specific requirements you have for a child, Zhao Boping asked. Pei Anzu was slightly startled after hearing this. A specific request? Can you still make a request for this kind of thing? Shouldn't it be that you can find a way, whether it's drawing a talisman or some other method, so that I can conceive a boy? After hearing this, Master Zhao showed a mysterious smile on his face. If this is all, many medical methods can also do it, but what I can do is not limited to this. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The real daughter has become famous all over the world for fortune telling. Author, Wang Crisp Bone. Chapter 213. Chapter 213. Go and see for yourself. Zhao Shul, who had been silent from beginning to end, finally found a chance to speak. He explained. I'm afraid what the madam wants is not just a male fetus, right? If the male fetus is stupid, ugly, or sick, the madam may not want it either, right? Even though Pei Anzu knew that the Zhao family was not simple, he was still shocked. Is it possible that you can ensure that I give birth to a healthy, smart, and handsome son? Yes, Madam can even choose how smart and handsome the fetus is, Zhao Shul said firmly. When he said this, he had a determined expression on his face, as if he was very confident in his craft. After the words fell, not only Pei Anzu, but also Officer Du, who had seen countless bizarre cases, were stunned. If it weren't for their strong professionalism, they would have lost their composure. But the shock on their faces still pleased brothers Zhao Boping and Zhao Shul. How is this possible? Pei Anzu looked in disbelief. Master Zhao, please don't fool me. Although I am eager to have a son, I am not easy to deceive. Even if Master Zhao has extraordinary means, how can he decide in advance? The appearance and intelligence of the unborn child are simply incredible. Since you can't trust us, why are you here? Zhao Shul snorted coldly. Hey, third brother, don't be rude to our guests. Zhao Boping waved his hand and said, Mrs. Pei has never seen it in person, so she definitely doesn't believe it. Pei Anzu nodded in agreement. It's true, I have never seen anything so incredible in my life, and I really don't believe it in my heart. That's easy to say, then I'll take Mrs. Pei to see it myself, Zhao Boping said with a smile. Now, Pei Anzu asked. Now Zhao Boping nodded. However, the place we are going to is very confidential, and only Mrs. Pei can go there. After hearing this, Officer Du knew that it was his turn to perform, so he stepped forward and said. No, our wife Jingui, she will follow you alone. What if something happens to be in danger? There must be at least one bodyguard following her. Mrs. Pei, what I do here is not a one-time deal. I am not trying to trick you into not doing business this time. If you were introduced here by a friend, you should know that I have a good reputation here. Zhao Boping looked indifferent. If Mrs. Pei is worried about her safety and refuses to abide by my rules, so please leave, I can't help you. Zhao Boping has the means to give birth to a boy, and he is very unruly to these customers who come to his door. He has such ability, he has no worries about customers, and there is no need to curry favor with him. So, his attitude is, if you really want a child, follow his rules or go home. Pei Anzu cooperated and continued to act. She glared at Officer Zhao. Don't be rude to Master Zhao. The master is an expert and has great methods. How could he have any intentions towards ordinary people like us? I believe in the master. Master Zhao, please ignore them, I will go with you. Zhao Boping nodded with satisfaction, turned to tell his third brother. You entertain the others, and I'll come as soon as I can. Zhao Shul nodded. Then, Pei Anzu followed Zhao Boping, left the living room and walked towards the garden of the house. Police Officer Du and the others were left in the living room to drink tea. Even if they wanted to explore the secrets of the Zhao family, they did not dare to act rashly with Zhao Shul watching at all times. Before Pei Anzu comes out, they can only play their roles well so as not to cause trouble for her. End of this chapter. The real daughter has become famous all over the world for fortune-telling. Author, Wang Chris Bone. Chapter 214. Chapter 214 Assembly Line Factory. The Zhao family's garden is very big. Led by Zhao Boping, the two walked through the hand corridor, passed by the unique and magnificent gardens, and came to a place among jagged and strange rocks. Pei Anzu recognized at a glance that the location and layout of this strange rock were based on the 5 elements and Bagua to prevent unsuspecting people from entering by mistake, and the method was very similar to the alley of the small clinic. At this time, it is enough to prove that there is an inseparable connection between the two. Madam, please cover your eyes. Zhao Boping stood at the door of the strange stone, handed over a black eye mask, and explained, Mrs. Pei, don't be surprised, this is the rule for guests who come to my place. Pei Anzu nodded, she understood, it was to prevent leaks. However, this trick was good for defending against ordinary people, but not enough against her. With just one glance, she could see all the strange stone formations in the garden. But she didn't say anything. She just blindfolded herself and was led by Zhao bopping through the rockery rocks of various shapes to the real entrance. There was only a click, as if some mechanism was opened, and then they entered a secret passage. Pei Anzu vaguely felt that the environment inside was different from the outside. After walking for about 2 minutes, Zhao bopping stopped. "Here we are, Mrs. Pei can find a blindfold." Pei Anzu took off his blindfold and instantly had a panoramic view of the situation here. What appeared in front of her was a huge space, which seemed to be the size of 3 football fields. Judging from the direction, it was located underground in the back garden of Zhao's house. The building here is very hidden, with no windows visible to the naked eye. There are only a few unknown vents to maintain the air circulation here. Even so, there is a lingering smell of blood lingering here. More importantly, this place looks like an assembly line factory. The entire site is divided into 6 small areas, each of which performs its own duties. Zhao bopping introduced at this time. "Madam, this is where you choose your male fetus." "This?" Pei Anzu's face still showed a hesitant look and asked, "What are they doing? Do you have any explanation?" After hearing this, Zhao bopping smiled confidently and said, "Mrs. Pei, please come with me, I will explain to you slowly. I wonder if Mrs. Pei has heard of a little story? It is said that the Western imitated Noah to knead clay to create a human being, but he wanted to create a perfect human being, so when mixing the clay, he kept adding some liquid that represents human attributes. Add some appearance, add some wisdom, add some bravery, add some strength, add some martial arts, add some background, and so on, all kinds of liquids gathered together to form water mixed with mud, and he finally needed a perfect piece of soil for him to carve a human shape. And our Zhao family does similar things. Although he is not as capable as the Western god, he can still achieve 30% to 40% of the effects by using certain Taoist secret techniques. And what you see here is the processing plant I built to add attributes to the fetus. In this world, everyone has different personal attributes and luck, so we send people to collect babies or fetuses that cannot survive. After gathering them here, use certain methods to peel off their appearance and intelligence, and finally form a brand new embryo according to the customer's requirements. After dripping with the customer's blood, they will be injected into the customer's uterus and conceived by them. Subsequently, after 10 months of pregnancy, the clients will be able to give birth to a customized child that is exactly what they want, just like a normal pregnancy. End of this chapter. The real daughter has become famous all over the world for fortune telling. Author, Wang Chris Bone. Chapter 215. Pei Anzu's face showed just the right amount of shock. This shock was not feigned, but she did not expect that Zhao bopping and the others were actually doing such a business behind their backs. She walked along this assembly line factory and looked at it step by step. There are many workers here, who should be locals of Zhejiakan, both men and women. They all wear hats and masks, uniform clothes, and special gloves. There are some runes engraved on the gloves to facilitate their operation. Some people held a bunch of meat in their hands and put them in a large iron basin in front of them to wash. They carefully scrubbed back and forth with a large brush to clean away the blood stains on them. This mass of flesh is the female fetus that has formed when the mother's body has grown to a certain stage. But these female fetuses had no chance of being born, so they were aborted midway and sent here to become part of the Zhao family's witchcraft of childbirth. After the meat are washed, they are handed over to the next step. Pour the scalding hot water on the meatball to make the skin loose and fluffy, then peel it off easily and set it aside. The skinned meatball enters the third stage. Some people who are good at knife skills cut off the head, cut it open, took out the few brains inside, and placed it in a special vessel engraved with runes and formations. Followed by the fourth stage, people who are also good at knife skills, strictly speaking butchers, separate the meat from the bones and flesh, and finally place the bones and meat separately. After that. In short, After a meatball passed through this assembly line factory, the skin, flesh, bones and blood of the entire body were scattered and divided into separate things. These things are the raw materials for Xiao Boping's witchcraft of childbirth. Finally, these things were put into small porcelain bottles of the same size, with labels on them, and data were used to distinguish the grades of these raw materials. After all, those meat are not exactly the same. Xiao Boping accompanied Pei Anzu to visit, and continued to explain as he walked, after these things are processed, they are also divided into upper, middle, and lower grades. After all, not all raw materials are exactly the same. The quality of meat dumplings that have been in the mother's belly for 7 or 8 months or at full term is much better than those that have been in the mother's belly for 5 or 6 months. So, the prices of things made with different raw materials are also different. MRSP seems to have no shortage of money. How about I take you to see some of the highest quality raw materials? I think you will like it. Xiao Boping's tone was full of pride. He does not seem to think that using unviable fetuses as raw materials is a cruel thing. In his eyes, those innocent little lives that did not have time to survive are not as good as money and interests. Pei Anzu lowered his head, his eyes cold. She smelled the smell of blood in the air and watched the human-shaped ball of flesh falling apart. She tried hard to control the anger in her heart. Finally, she clenched her fist tightly and said, "Okay, then please ask Master Zhao to take me to see it." So Zhao Boping took Pei Anzu inside, passed through the assembly line factory, and came to a more secret stone room, where there were several ancient bookshelves. The shelves are filled with small porcelain vases. At first glance, it seems that there are hundreds or even thousands of them. And this is only what the Zhao family has saved. If we include those that the Zhao family had sold before, we don't know how many fetuses Zhao Boping and the others actually mutilated. These are the best. Zhao Boping pointed to the innermost shelf and said, "The raw materials here are all from living babies." A living body? Pei Anzu was shocked and angry. How can there be a living body? Zhao Boping didn't hear Pei Anzu's suppressed anger and thought she was shocked, so he explained. There are always some people in this world who don't like their daughters and abandon them as soon as they are born, and what we need most is this type of raw material. You must know that a stillborn baby is far inferior to a living one. A newborn baby girl who is alive and well, whether skin, bones or flesh and blood, is the most delicate and tender, so the effect is also the best. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The real daughter has become famous all over the world for fortune telling. Author, Wang Crisp Bone. Chapter 216. Pei Anzu fell into speechless shock. If it weren't for the overall situation, she would probably overturn this place. Perhaps Pei Anzu's silence caused Zhao Boping to misunderstand. He turned his eyes and then smiled. "I understand that Mrs. Pei is kind-hearted and can't stand the raw materials taken from living bodies. This is normal and many of our customers are like this. If you don't want to choose these things, we have other second-rate ones. There are those that live to full term in the mother's body, but are stillborn when they are born. There are those that live for 7 or 8 months and then die. Of course the worst is 5 or 6 months. We take out the raw materials and store them here for customers to choose and customize them. Of course, we also wholesale the lowest grade birth control pills, which are made with the worst materials and are generally supplied to those who just want to have children. Son, I don't value other conditions that much. For example, in many closed and feudal rural villages, the idea of favoring sons over daughters is deeply ingrained. Even if the family goes bankrupt, they still want to have a son to inherit the family. This type of people are the target customers of the lowest-end birth control pills. They are not particularly rich, but they are willing to spend money to save their son." After hearing Zhao Boping's words, Pei Anzu calmed down and said with a smile, It seems that you have quite a lot of customers here. Of course, we have them all over the country, and even have many foreign customers. Zhao Boping was very proud. We have never publicized it. We all rely on our customers to spread word of mouth and introduce each other, so MRS Pei, don't worry, we are definitely reputable. I want to know, how long have you been doing this? Pei Anzu asked. Why are you asking this? Zhao Boping was confused. It's nothing, just ask. If it's not convenient for Master Zhao to say it, forget it, Pei Anzu said as if he didn't care. Master Zhao, this matter is of great importance. I have to think carefully about what materials to use. I think I'll get back to you tomorrow, okay? Of course, then please invite MRS Pei to stay at Zhao's house tonight. We will entertain you well and make sure you feel at home. After Zhao Boping finished speaking, he took Pei Anzu out. Pei Anzu was blindfolded when he left, just like when he came. When she returned to the living room of the Zhao family, Shen Yuan and Officer Du heaved a sigh of relief. Pei Anzu said to them calmly. We will stay here tonight, Uncle Du, please call home and tell me that things are going well here, and we will go back after completing the transaction with Master Zhao. Also, let them not come to me in a big way when I achieve my goal. I will have plenty of time to go back and argue with them. Police Officer Du glanced at Pei Anzu, and their eyes met, revealing a tacit understanding. The so-called wealthy wife and bodyguards at home were originally just a drama played by Pei Anzu and the others, and there was no family to deal with at all. So, what Pei Anzu said has a deeper meaning. Call home to notify the Bureau of Emergency Management. It went very well, which means she has found the key to the case. Don't look for them in a big way, implying that more people need to be deployed for support, but they cannot be discovered. Achieving the goal and then going back to make excuses refers to solving the case and arresting the person first, and then explaining everything. Police Officer Du is well informed and experienced in many battles, so he would not fail to understand such a hint, so he nodded to Pei Anzu, took his mobile phone and went out, with no abnormal expression on his face. Others were carefully selected to enter the strange situation and would not make mistakes on such a small issue. Even Shen Yuan, because he followed Pei Anzu all over the country and saw the world several times before, did not reveal any clues. So, Zhao Boping and Zhao Shul didn't notice anything. The main reason is that there are too many wealthy people who come to ask for children. They never thought that they would fall over. In addition, Zhejiakan is under their control, so they are not particularly vigilant. End of chapter. The real daughter has become famous all over the world for fortune-telling. Author, Wang Chris Bone. Chapter 217. The Zhao family's house is large and has many guest rooms, which is enough to accommodate Pei Anzu and his group. Zhao Boping asked his servants to clean up a yard, which contained a main house and 3 side rooms, which could accommodate all of them. After settling in, they had a sumptuous dinner at Zhao's house. There was a whole table with 20 or 30 dishes, all of which were delicious in color and flavor, not inferior to the chefs of well-known restaurants in big cities. It can be seen that although the Zhao brothers live in the village, their quality of life is not low at all. They can be called the local emperors of the entire Zhejiang village. After eating and drinking, everyone went back to rest. Zhao Boping and the others did not monitor the guests coming from afar, so after returning to the courtyard, everyone gathered in the main room. Pei Anzu casually laid out a soundproof stitch, and then asked. What did the Foreign Affairs Bureau say? When can they send someone over? Bureau Guo has made arrangements, but the headquarters of the Bureau of Abnormality is in Yunqing. It will take some time to get to Kangcheng. It will probably be late at night when we arrive, Officer Du said. Pei Anzu nodded and said. Then I will explore Zhejiakan tonight before they come. If I understand correctly, what you meant earlier was that you have already found the key evidence, so why do you still visit Zhejiakan at night? Officer Zeng was curious. Pei Anzu paused and explained. I already know where Zhao Boping's industrial chain is, but Zhejiakan is very big, so there may be other secrets elsewhere. This case is too appalling. Since we want to investigate, we must investigate thoroughly and not leave some fish unattended, otherwise it will cause endless trouble. Everyone nodded in agreement, and then Shen Yuan asked, "Do you want us to help?" "No, I am enough by myself." "Don't forget, I have helpers." Pei Anzu smiled and shook his head, and said, "You and the little fox stay in the yard to protect everyone's safety. Of course, I will also. There will be some talismans left. This is, after all, the old residence of the Zhao family and the base camp of Zhao Boping and the others. Although the two brothers are not good at academics, they know some occult methods, otherwise they would not be able to provide such private customized childbirth services. Facing such a person, I am definitely not afraid of being upright, but I am afraid that the other party will play dirty tricks. Hence, we still have to keep a life-saving trump card in this yard. Although Officer Du and the others are members of the Foreign Affairs Bureau, they are all ordinary people. Therefore, Shen Yuan's little fox is a line of defense guarding this courtyard." No one objected to Pei Anzu's arrangement. Police Officer Du took out a law enforcement recorder and handed it to Pei Anzu and said, "If you find anything, just take pictures and keep the evidence. This case involves too much, and if there is any emergency, we can prevent the other party from destroying the evidence." Pei Anzu nodded and put the law enforcement recorder with shooting function into his bag. In fact, she also has a camera, but her camera does not have a storage function and can only be used as an external lens during live broadcasts. As for the law enforcement recorders of the Irregularity Bureau, they are smaller, more precise, and more stable than those used by ordinary police stations, and can even capture things that are invisible to the naked eye. Of course, ghosts cannot be photographed directly, but it can record some matter and energy invisible to the naked eye and display it on the screen through color blocks. If someone takes this kind of recorder and shoots in an empty place, but different color blocks appear on the screen, it means that there is something similar to a ghost in that place. This recorder is a new product designed by the scientific research team after the establishment of the Irregularity Bureau, based on some information and materials provided by Pei Anzu, as well as several past cases as a reference. The purpose is to facilitate ordinary people like Officer Du. Of course, the cost of this kind of recorder is very high and it takes a long time. Currently, there are only a few of them, only 5 in total. The action team in charge of Officer Du received 2 units, and the investigation team in charge of Wentao also got 2 units. The last one was placed at the headquarters for backup at any time. After the discussion, Pei Anzu gave everyone a lot of life-saving talismans, and then they went back to rest. Until late at night. Zayajia village was silent, every household fell into sleep, and even the insects in the nearby farmland stopped. Pei Anzu stopped meditating, opened his eyes, quietly left the room, made a breath-holding technique for himself, climbed over the wall and left the yard, and began a night visit to Zhejiakan. She went to the garden first, untied the formation, and entered the assembly line factory. It was late at night, and people in the factory had already gone back to rest, so Pei Anzu walked freely inside, not only taking pictures of every step with the recorder, but also taking pictures of the small porcelain bottles on the shelf. After turning around to make sure that all the evidence was not missing, she left and restored the formation to its original state. Afterwards, she wandered around the Zhao family's old house and successfully found several other places covered by formations. It seemed that they had secrets at first glance. One of them is a study room. After untying the formation and going in to take a look, there are not many books in it, but only account books. That's right, ledgers, paper and handwritten ledgers. It has to be said that we are now in a technological society. In society, computer software is used to store data, work, and so on. It is true that very few people still use such traditional methods. But the Zhao family is an exception. The account books in their study are placed on several shelves, even marked with different years, months, and serial numbers, and they are neatly packed. No matter when you want to look through it, you only need to find the corresponding book. Pei Anzu casually took out an account book and opened it. The records inside were very detailed. The customer's name, identity, address, materials, grade, price used for customizing the pills, and finally the customer's signature and seal. To say anything, this is a room full of very complete and detailed evidence. Pei Anzu did not have time to read through the contents of all the account books. He only randomly selected one book every year and photographed it, and then calculated the number of account books here. Judging from the account books, Zhao Boping and others should have started this business 5 years ago. In other words, if the period of privately ordered birth control pills is no more than 5 years, then the maximum child born through this method will be about 5 years old. In this way, although the coverage of customers is wide, the results are still within control. After all, 5-year-old children cannot do anything too outrageous. Even if they are beautiful and have high IQs, their destructive power is limited due to age restrictions. After thinking about this, Pei Anzu breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, those children who were born by private customization have not grown up, otherwise it would not be easy to control them, and it would cause a lot of trouble and burden to the Abnormality Bureau. After leaving the study, Pei Anzu went to look at the remaining places. After taking photos of the evidence, he expanded the search scope and looked at the entire Zhejiakan. Her cultivation level is now at the peak of foundation building. She can fly in the air or climb over walls. She can also release her spiritual consciousness and cover the entire village in an instant. Where there is a problem and where it is worth exploring, she can clearly see it at a glance. That night, the people in Zayajia village slept soundly, but little did they know that the secrets hidden in their village had already been seen through by the eyes in the darkness. The real daughter has become famous all over the world for fortune-telling. Author, Wang Chris Bone. Chapter 218. The large force support from the Alien Bureau arrived in the middle of the night. After arriving, as agreed before, they did not disturb the villagers of Zayajia village, but hid in the dark and surrounded the entire Zayajia village. Speaking of siege, it is actually not accurate. After all, the Abnormality Bureau does not have a particularly large number of manpower. They just blocked the roads leading away from the village from all directions in Zayajia village and sent people to guard there. No one was allowed in or out. At the same time, they also contacted Police Officer Du in the village. Police Officer Du asked them to stay put for the time being and wait until dawn to see Pei Anzu to see what happened before proceeding to the next step. So the people from the Yitiao Bureau surrounded Zayajia village without arresting them, waiting for dawn. Pei Anzu had been busy all night. Not long after he returned to his room to practice, he heard the servants of the Zhao family knocking on the courtyard door and asking them what they wanted to eat for breakfast. Police officer Zheng went out to deal with others, while the remaining people gathered in Pei Anzu's house. "How is the situation?" Officer Du asked. Pei Anzu handed over the recorder and said, "We've almost figured it out. It contains some secrets of Zayajia village, as well as a map of the entire village, including several hidden secret passages. Generally speaking, villagers take the right path when entering and exiting, and will not use secret passages unless they encounter a crisis or emergency. So, when besieging the village this time, the exits of these secret passages are the focus. In addition, there are some places where secrets are hidden. For example, the assembly line factory has physical evidence, there are account books in the study, and the warehouse contains the property earned by the Zhao family over the years, mostly gold, silver, and jewelry. This is the brilliance of the Zhao family. They always deal with customers face to face, and the records are only in the account book. They never use electronic equipment. Even when collecting money, they only accept cash or gold, silver, and jewelry, so as to reduce the number of interactions with customers. Traces of the transaction. If we didn't search on the spot, we probably wouldn't be able to find these. Officer Du took the recorder and nodded, "I will pass the contents stored inside to people outside, and they will know how to do it." Shen Yuan listened to their conversation and reminded. When taking action, we must always pay attention to the fact that the villagers in Zayajia village are attacking in groups. After all, those villagers were like this when we were in the village of Julipo before. Judging from the current clues, the entire Zayajia village follows Zhao Boping and his brothers. Many people work in the Zhao family's assembly line factory, and they can basically be regarded as accomplices. Zhao Boping and the others must have given them enough money to make the villagers of Zayajiakan willing to risk breaking the law and committing crimes to do these things. And this time, we have damaged their interests. I am worried that they will become angry and violent. Comrades in the Foreign Affairs Bureau are also elites selected from the military and police systems in various places. The education they received did not include violent law enforcement. If the villagers attack in groups, the comrades of the Foreign Affairs Bureau will be afraid of being injured if they use the enemy's weapons. Shen Yuan remembered clearly that when he was in Julipo, he faced the villagers who were bewitched by the evil god. He was crazy and impulsive, and it took a lot of effort to solve the problem. The villagers in Zayajia village are more numerous than the villagers in Julipo. Police officer Du also knew about this, because he was also responsible for the follow-up of Julipo, so after hearing Shen Yuan's words, he frowned. This is indeed a difficult problem. We can't really fight with those villagers, right? Pei Anzu thought for a while and said, "Extraordinary moments require extraordinary measures. I will resolve this matter. Officer Du, just follow the procedures." Although I didn't know how Pei Anzu wanted to solve the problem, no one said anything else based on their trust in her. So they took advantage of the situation and made a plan. After breakfast, Pei Anzu invited brothers Zhao Boping and Zhao Shuel to accompany her to the assembly line factory again, taking them with her in the name of selecting raw materials. In this way, even if there is any emergency, Pei Anzu can ensure that these two people with Suanman means will not run out and cause harm to ordinary people. Police Officer Du and Officer Zheng are responsible for keeping in touch with the outside world at all times and cooperating inside and outside. As for Shen Yuan, he has other arrangements. After breakfast, everyone followed the plan. Pei Anzu claimed that he had thought about it and was going to select the raw materials for Shenzi pills and asked the Zhao brothers to accompany him. After they went to the assembly line factory, Officer Du and others also started to take action. They contacted their colleagues outside and passed on the news. As for Shen Yuan, she took the little fox to do things. Zayajia village is relatively large, and there are many people living in this area. If you want to avoid physical conflicts between the villagers and the comrades from the Foreign Affairs Bureau, you can only subdue some people first. So, under Pei Anzu's arrangement, Shen Yuan and Little Fox randomly selected several households and threw explosive charms into their homes. Explosive talisman, as the name suggests, can produce explosions. Its power is related to the spiritual power attached to the paper by the talisman master. The more spiritual power, the greater the power. Theoretically, Pei Anzu should be able to draw the talisman for the peak of foundation building now. But she was afraid of causing too much damage, so she reduced the effect of the talisman. When used, this explosive talisman could only blow up a pit of 1 square meter. Shen Yuan specifically chose an unoccupied room to throw away, for fear of hurting others. For the villagers of Zayajia village, they are not complete laymen in metaphysics. They are somewhat aware of the abilities of the Zhao brothers. But no matter how clear it is, I have never experienced an unprovoked explosion at home in broad daylight. The villagers didn't even see a ghost. They only heard a bang, and a 1-meter wide hole appeared on the ground in a room in the house. Moreover, the explosive sound is so loud that the people around can hear it very clearly. Therefore, When the explosion occurred, many villagers who were fine at home gathered curiously at the houses of the bombed villagers, wanting to know what happened. After all, everyone likes to watch the fun. Therefore, the entire villagers of Zayagia village, centered on the explosion site, gathered 5 groups of different numbers of people. Since people are together, it will be easier to handle. The little fox disappeared and threw a stun charm into the crowd. Within a few minutes, these villagers fell down one after another, their bodies lying on the ground. Although there are still some fish that have slipped through the net that have not gathered together in the village, they have stunned a large army. Even if there is a physical conflict by then, the comrades of the strange bureau will be able to deal with it. So, after the villagers fell, Officer Du notified people outside to enter the village to arrest people. No matter whether these villagers are Zhao Boping's accomplices or not, they must be taken back and interrogated first. If they are guilty, they will be judged guilty, and if they are not guilty, they will be released. So, when Pei Anzu and the Zhao brothers were working around the assembly line factory, the entire Zayagia village was already under the control of the Foreign Affairs Bureau. Things are going very well. Pei Anzu pretended to select a few raw materials, and then the Zhao brothers took her out to sign the contract and pay. But as soon as he walked out of the garden, he saw Officer Du and his men blocking the exit outside the formation. "Mrs. Pei, what do you mean?" Zhao Boping asked a little angry. "Can't you see what I mean?" Pei Anzu smiled and nodded at Officer Du's position. "Of course I'm inviting you to drink tea and talk about how you harmed pregnant women and their fetuses. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The real daughter has become famous all over the world for fortune-telling." Author, Wang Chris Bone. Chapter 219. Chapter 219 Recovering the Shuyungan Classics. At this point, if Zhao Boping still doesn't see anything, then his business for so many years will be in vain. He just didn't expect that he had been cautious for so long, even considering things like transactions and accounting, not to leave traces online, but this time he made a mistake. Mrs. Pei is not here to buy birth control pills at all. Her target is the Zhao family. In other words, the entire Zayajiakan. "It's just you who want to deal with me, you're too young." After Zhao Boping figured it out, he glared at Pei Anzu. Then, he grabbed the wrist of his third brother Zhao Shul, the two of them jumped back, and then sprinkled some grey powder in the air, with a ferocious expression on his face. "I didn't even ask before I came, who am I, Zhao Boping?" He dares to be so arrogant, so he naturally has something to rely on. His reliance is the few Taoist spells he learned from the classics passed down from his ancestors, as well as the props that were also passed down from his ancestors and made using Taoist methods. Just like the grey powder just now. It is said to be something made by Zhao Boping's ancestors 4 generations back. It has no official name and has no particularly powerful effects, but ordinary people who come into contact with it will fall into hallucinations. If nothing else, this is a life-saving trump card when facing a powerful enemy. It's a pity that because this powder has been passed down for too many generations, there is not much left, and he is usually reluctant to use it. If Pei Anzu didn't have too many people today, he wouldn't be so wasteful. When he sprinkled the powder, Zhao Boping seemed to have foreseen that the other party would fall into hallucinations and lose his mind. Unexpectedly, a few seconds passed, and Officer Du and others looked no different. "That's it?" Pei Anzu asked. Actually, she didn't mean to be sarcastic, she just wanted to know if Zhao Boping had other methods that he hadn't used yet. But her expression, coupled with her tone, was very irritating. Zhao Boping blushed angrily. "How can it be? They all have amulets I gave them, which can withstand 3 disasters." Pei Anzu explained kindly. "You use Suanman methods to harm people, and they use Suanman methods to resist. It's fair, isn't it? Officer Du waved his hand behind him. Catch him. Comrades from the Alien Bureau rushed forward and handcuffed them. According to the confession of the previously arrested Master Zhao, he is the only one of the three Zhao brothers who is more capable and can learn 20% of Suanmen magic. As for his two brothers, they can also follow heretical practices. Just imagine, even Master Zhao is no match for Pei Anzu, let alone Zhao Boping? When the grey powder was exhausted and surrounded by so many comrades from the Alien Bureau, Zhao Boping and his two brothers had no way to escape. In normal times, the Zhao brothers' methods are enough to deal with ordinary people. But their current opponent is Pei Anzu, a Suanmen genius who comes from the Suanmen Orthodox and has extremely high cultivation level. So their little trick is obviously not enough. Arrest is the only outcome. Officer Zheng took the two brothers out. Officer Du stayed and said to Pei Anzu, "Master Pei, I remember that you are here to find the Shuyungan classics, right? You visited Zhejiakan last night. Did you find the whereabouts of the classics?" "Yes, those classics are kept in the secret room of the study." Pei Anzu nodded. "There are a lot of things. I would like to trouble Officer Du to send a few people to help me take them out together. You must know that according to Master Zhao's confession, what the ancestors of the Zhao family obtained at that time were all the classics in the Shuyungan classics that belonged to the lineage of life skills. This is not a small amount. After all, it has been thousands of years since Master Shuyun came through time travel and founded Shuyun Temple. Before Master Qingfeng and the Big Demon died together, Shuyun Temple had not lost its inheritance. Hence, as time goes by, those classics have been expanded, which is a very considerable number. Police Officer Du sent 5 of his men to follow Pei Anzu into the secret room of Zhao's study and moved everything out. 7 or 8 large boxes. They are all made of fine golden nanmuo, painted with red paint on the outside. After polishing and polishing, they were painted with several layers of anti-corrosion, insect-proof and vandal-proof materials. This is also the reason why these boxes can be preserved for hundreds of years. In addition to the classics, there are also some magic weapons in the box. The number is not large, only 5 or 6. Judging from the style, they should be brought by Master Shuyun from the world of cultivation and left behind. In the world of cultivation, these things are just low-level magic weapons for use by disciples below the foundation building stage. But in this world, even a low-level magic weapon is enough to become a trump card for a mortal sect to gain a foothold, let alone several in number. Ever since the curse of the great demon, no one in Shuyungan can drive these magical weapons. Even among the ancestors of the Zhao family, few people can use these things, so these precious magic weapons can only be left in boxes to collect dust. Pei Anzu sighed slightly when he saw these things. Because things change and people change, because time changes. Whether it's Master Shuyun or herself, a master of cultivation who shocked everyone in the world of cultivation has wandered into this world, and she doesn't know when she will be able to find her way back. As for Shuyun Temple, the prosperity and prestige of thousands of years ago have long been annihilated in the long river of time and disappeared without any trace. Congratulations, Master Pei, for retrieving some of the Master's classics. Officer Du congratulated her and added, "This is a smooth start. The road to retrieving the classics will become smoother and smoother in the future." "Then let me borrow the good words from Officer Du." Pei Anzu chuckled, and then said, "By the way, the Zhao family has a treasure house filled with gold, silver, and jewelry. If this is confiscated, the national treasury can increase a lot of revenue. Woolen cloth. Even though Zhao Boping and the others have only been doing this business for 5 years, they have already made a lot of money. After all, most of the customers are wealthy people. As for ordinary people who have lost everything to have a son, accumulating a small sum of money can still be a huge fortune. The warehouse is stacked with red wooden boxes of the same size, which seem to have been handed down from his ancestors and are now used by him to store his belongings. These boxes are placed against the wall of the warehouse, full of them. Police officer Du went to the warehouse under the leadership of Pei Anzu. He saw several boxes inside filled with gold bricks of the same size, each of which was heavy. He was silent for a long time. Finally, I couldn't help but complain. Sure enough, I can make money quickly by breaking the law, and the criminal law will not deceive me. Pei Anzu. I didn't expect Officer Du to have such a humorous side. There are so many things, I think I need an arm to transport them. Officer Du couldn't help but sigh, and then asked, by the way, Master Pei, your classics are also valuable, right? How about we help you transport them together? That's not necessary. Your jewelry has to be transported to Yuncheng. My classics need to be taken back to Shuyungan in Pingcheng. We have different ways. Pei Anzu refused. What's more, these classics are nothing more than old books. Only those who know the goods are valuable, otherwise it is just a pile of waste paper, so I just ask Express Logistics to help me transport it. Hearing what she said, Officer Du did not hesitate, and the two of them contacted the escorts separately. End of this chapter. The real daughter has become famous all over the world for fortune-telling. Author, Wang Chris Bone. Chapter 220. The case of a small black-hearted clinic providing abortions to women was solved. The main culprits, the Zhao brothers, were arrested, and the affairs of Zhejiakan were completely handed over to the Foreign Affairs Bureau. Police officer Zhang first led a group of people to the main criminals Zhao Boping, Zhao Shul, and others from Zhejiakan back to the irregular bureau for investigation and interrogation. As for Officer Du, he stayed here with a small group of people to deal with the aftermath. Pei Anzu went to the assembly line factory and liberated all the baby girls who died tragically. After making sure that there were no omissions here, he left Zhejiakan. She found a logistics company to help her transport the Shuyungan classics. As for herself, she and Shen Yueran followed the logistics truck back to Shuyungan. Shuyungan has a room where she lives. Although she hasn't been here for a while, the basic daily necessities are still there. It only needs a little cleaning to accommodate two people. Shuyunguan is in the mountains and the conditions are simple. He is not as wealthy as the Shen family. I feel sorry for you. Pei Anzu led Shen Yueran into the room and said. Shen Yueran shook his head and said. No aggrievement, I'm not a person who can't endure hardships as I follow you here and there. What's more, Shuyun Temple is somewhat of a scenic spot, and some people can't live there even if they want to. After saying this, she hesitated for a while and then asked cautiously. Xiaozu, aren't you going back to Yuncheng to seal your family? I just won't go back for the time being. Pei Anzu explained, I just got back some of the classics. I want to stay here to take a look and sort out Shuyungan's books. Actually, she doesn't need to read those classics. The library of the Suanji sect in the world of cultivation is vast, and she has already read them all. But there were no sects such as Longhu, Genji, Quanzhen, and Mission in that world. She wanted to see if Shuyungan's classics could lead to new insights and breakthroughs after learning from the best of others. If she can learn a thing or two from it, it will also be a good thing for her practice. After hearing Pei Anzu's explanation, Shen Yueran breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. I thought you wouldn't go back. The Feng family is a family at the top of the pyramid. All 3 surnames, 4 families, and 5 families can only succumb to it. If you don't go back, the Feng family will think that I abducted you. And if I go to deal with the Shen family, I will cause trouble for the family. Pei Anzu smiled when he heard this, shook his head and said. No, not to mention that the Feng family will not offend a powerful family just because of a marginalized person like me. Let's just say that the old lady of the Feng family is not a confused person. What's more, what they ask of me is that as long as I take the title of eldest mistress, it doesn't matter whether I am in the family or not. Shen Yueran was immediately relieved and stayed at Shuyungan peacefully. Pei Anzu felt that this was just an opportunity, so he asked. I see that you are very interested in metaphysics, and you have traveled to so many places with me and seen different worlds. Have you ever thought about taking this path in the future? Can I? Shen Yuan was surprised. Why not? Pei Anzu smiled, your conditions are very good. After saying this, she counted her fingers and listed her advantages to Shen Yuan. First, although she is a bit older and does not meet the requirements of Suanmen training since she was a child, she has good understanding and skills. She remembers and understands a lot of Suanmen knowledge that Pei Anzu said after hearing it once. Secondly, she comes from a wealthy Shen family, so she doesn't have to worry about making a living. If she really decides to take this path, she can go without any distractions. Thirdly, she has merit, which has been accumulated by the Shen family for generations to protect future generations. Moreover, her parents and she herself are also people who have accumulated virtue and performed good deeds, which is conducive to spiritual practice. Fourthly, she has a fox fairy, which is her fate with the world of metaphysics. This alone surpasses most ordinary people. More importantly, Pei Anzu will leave this world sooner or later and return to the world of cultivation. But before going back, she has two important tasks to complete. First, follow the original owner's last wish and provide care for the old Taoist priest until his death. Second, find the scattered ancient books of Qishuyungan and find a way to revive Suanmen and leave a life-saving trump card to this world so that this world no longer has to fear monsters and monsters. The first item is easy to complete. She is rich now, and the old Taoist priest is not difficult to deal with. As long as he dies, it will be completed. The real difficulty is the second one. The 5 arts of Suanmen and fortune-telling by mountain doctors. Now she has only found the books on the art of fortune, and she doesn't know where the rest are. Even if she is lucky enough to find all these things, it will be of no use if she cannot break the curse of the great demon and pass it on to Shuyungan. So, in addition to completing the second item, she had to find a way to lift the curse, and then find a suitable successor for Shuyungan. And Shen Yuan is the most suitable successor that Pei Anzu has been looking for so far. Before the curse was lifted, Shen Yuan was not suitable to become a disciple and could only study with her as an assistant. But if Shen Yuan is willing to wait until the day when the curse is lifted, let her kowtow to the memorial tablet of Shuyungan and determine her destiny, then that will be it. Of course, Pei Anzu didn't say these things. It was impossible for her to reveal to anyone that she was not from this world and would have to leave one day. But just the 4 advantages she mentioned were enough to impress Shen Yuan. So Shen Yuan nodded heavily. Xiaozu, please teach me. I am willing to learn anything, and I also want to be as good as you. Don't worry, I am not afraid of hardship, and my parents will agree. Her brother naturally has to worry about the family inheritance, and she can do what she likes. Pei Anzu looked at Shen Yuan's serious eyes, nodded and said, Okay, now that you have decided, I will officially teach you from today on. Metaphysics is very complex and has many branches. It may be difficult for you to learn them all, so I thought I would show you some basic introductory books first. If you don't understand, come back and ask me. When you have a solid foundation, you can then choose 1 or 2 of the horoscopes you like or are interested in from the mountain doctors, and I will teach you in detail. But before that, you must first know what the 5 arts of Suanmen represent. Shen Yuan doesn't know anything else, but he is not afraid of reading at all. When she went to college, she chose Chinese language and literature based on her own interests, instead of choosing business management like her brother. For a person who is proficient in Chinese language and literature, it is easier to read ancient books than others. After all, literary literacy is real. So, when Pei Anzu was sorting out the Shuyungan classics, he took out the basic books and gave them to Shen Yuan to read by himself. The 2 of them lived a life of reading, drinking tea, and wandering around in Shuyungan, but the comrades in the Yitiao bureau were crazy busy. There are so many people in Zayajia village, and everyone must be interrogated individually to determine whether they are aware of the incident and whether they are participants in the abortion of female babies based on their involvement with the Zhao brothers. There is also Officer Du, who still has to collect the bones of those baby girls who died in vain. Those female babies who were stillborn had all their body parts separated long ago and were mixed with other female babies, making them inseparable. So Officer Du had no choice but to buy a large cemetery and bury all the raw materials in it, treating it as a joint tomb for these baby girls.